Could we see a seismic change at quarterback in 2026? The way Joe Burrow is talking has a few people wondering, is that time in Cincinnati up? If it is, where could he go? Let's discuss where Joe Burrow could end up if the Cincinnati Bengals bungle one of the best quarterbacks in the National Football League. So Joe Burrow has come out and said quite a few things over the last little while, and that has led to a lot of conversations about his future. And you can see where the quarterback of the future, you would think, with the Bengals could be a little bit frustrated. They got to the Super Bowl a few years ago, and now it's going to be 3 straight years without the playoffs. And for a guy who has been, the fact that he wasn't the MVP last year is an organizational disgrace. The fact he wasn't in the playoffs last year is an organizational disgrace, given the, legendary numbers that offense was putting up. To have it go with just a season that was just for naught, and then to have him get hurt, fight his way back, and then still have to be running for his life and getting drilled into the ground, you can see where that frustration starts to build. I will say, in terms of the blame pie in Cincinnati, he gets a very small amount, a sliverish sliver. I will say, if you didn't maybe put as much pressure on the whole T. Higgins thing and let them sign a couple offensive linemen, maybe that gets figured out. Now, the NFL salary cap is pretty easy to work around. And the fact that they have not been able to successfully address the offensive line, I think that could be forgiven, I guess, if they didn't put all of their focus on the defense and have it still suck, right? You still draft a kid in the first round and try to attack things defensively that way, and it still isn't working. So you can, again, very, very small, minute part of this is Joe Burrow's fault. But if this is an irreparable relationship, then maybe we could have some moving on here. So who are some of the teams that I could see trading for Joe Burrow? I just want to let it be known, first of all, that the list of teams that should trade for Joe Burrow is about 30, right? He is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And there are 3 or 4 QBs that you have to think about it. Is this an upgrade? I don't know. Maybe. There's at least everyone else, it is obvious what the upgrade is. So, let's keep that in mind. I am not saying, oh, well, these are the only teams that Burrow would be an improvement on. He'd be an improvement on most of them. It's just, I think that there could be a mix of motivation and a mix of the assets or the opportunity to kind of get that done, I guess, so to speak. So here are the teams that I think could work for a Joe Burrow trade. Honorable mention, Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray, clearly out of favor there. He could be young enough and still you know what, we can get something out of that guy. That if he was the centerpiece of a blockbuster with Burrow, if that's just what the Bengals had in mind, then I think you could see a world where that could make sense. So honorable mention to Arizona. Up first on our list, we'll go 5 through 1 on this one, I guess, is the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, they're making a big change at quarterback with Tua getting sat for Quinn Ewers. They are in a ridiculously competitive division now with Drake May and Josh Allen at the top of it for a really long time. So they're going to want to obviously improve their lot quickly. And they have a lot of weapons that you would be excited about. I don't know if it's just plug Joe Burrow in and all of a sudden this is a championship team, but it's a very dangerous one, I think, really quickly. Right now, they pick 11th in the draft. Could there be... The issue is Tua, right? And what the Bengals want to do. They've locked in on Higgins. They've locked in on Chase. They don't have a lot else, I guess, but they've locked in on those guys. The Bengals aren't traditionally the biggest spenders, which is one of the problems that you are seeing here. Would Tua and his gigantic contract be a detriment or an addition because they want someone who is kind of NFL ready, quotes? That would be the worst landing spot for Tua, given the offensive line things there. But you could, if you are Cincinnati, do you talk yourself into, he just needs a change of scenery, needs to, we got the weapons that he can work it with, and we can make an offense around him that would work. Probably wouldn't be the best considering the coldness of it all, but for Tua anyway. But I still wonder the youth and all of that. Does it just kind of he fell into the Burrow spot? I'm not saying it's one for one. Right now, Miami would be picking 11th in the draft. Would you do my 11th Tua and the first next year for Joe Burrow, and then the Bengals with Tua, you can draft an offensive lineman, a couple of them, in the first round with picks that are going to be decently high, and see if you can kind of build things out that way. So just the first one, again, I don't know how likely any of these are. It's just kind of a, what could these destinations be? Up next, the New York Jets. I think the one thing we've established with the Jets this year is they don't have a quarterback of the future in that building. Respect to Tyrod Taylor. They don't really have an experienced option to send the Bengals' way. So Cincinnati would have to replace Burrow with another move. But right now, the Jets have pick 5. Does that help? Like, is it 5, a second, and a first next year, and then some guy? Like another one to maybe make some money work or something like that. Like, is there a move there that the Jets could have because of how high that draft pick could be? And if you want to just go quarterback, offensive lineman for Cincinnati at 5 and then wherever they're going to be picking, does that help kind of ease the Joe Burrow exit out there? And then again, for the Jets, kind of the same motivations as Miami, where you're playing against Drake May and Josh Allen a couple of times a year, having Joe Burrow instead of Tyrod Taylor or whoever the hell that Cook guy is. That might make some sense. Next up is the team that I root for, the Vegas Raiders. Again, pretty clearly no quarterback of the future there. Due respect to Kenny Pickett and whatever he was trying to do last week against the Eagles, and Geno Smith just falling off of a cliff this season. But there's nothing there. So again, unless they think Geno Smith, maybe with those guys, could be a bit of a reclamation project for Cincinnati, maybe. But there's an opportunity that the Raiders will have the number 1 overall pick. Would that be enough with another future or something to send the Bengals' way and try to get one of the best quarterbacks in the league out of Cincinnati? Again, the Raiders would be putting Burrow in it would be a worse spot for Joe Burrow, no question about it. But when you look at the roster in Vegas, and I don't think that would be a smart use of the number 1 overall pick for the Raiders, but they're the Raiders, and they're always involved in these types of conversations. And when you're looking at the draft this year and seeing the teams that are at the top and who would be motivated to make moves like this, not that the Titans wouldn't, I don't think the Titans would go, we can't trade for Joe Burrow, we have Cam Ward. But I feel like of the teams that are kind of up there, Vegas was maybe the most realistic. Now we're getting into the ones because these ones, you can see them being interested, and they have a little bit more of the draft capital to maybe be able to do it. These next couple are the, oh my God, could you imagine teams. And we will start with the Minnesota Vikings. They gambled on J.J. McCarthy. It hasn't worked. It's not working. Quarterback, though, I still think this is a really good roster in Minnesota, and quarterback is kind of the only thing holding them back. Burrow would do the opposite of that, obviously. Does Cincinnati fancy themselves a J.J. McCarthy? All of a sudden, a bit of a cheaper option at quarterback. Cincinnati likes cheap. Do you get a McCarthy plus picks out the wazoo for Joe Burrow? And now the Vikings have a complete roster and have a team that can kind of dominate, or at least, I don't want to say dominate, but can be very competitive in a really good NFC North. And then the last one here, and this is a little pie in the sky, but follow me here. What about the Eagles? It's been an ugly season for Philadelphia. If that continues into the postseason, is there okay, we appreciate Jalen Hurts, everything you've done, awesome, great, love it. But if we want to consistently get back to where we were, we're going to need an upgrade. And what better upgrade is going to be out there than Joe Burrow? Or is it just like, look, Jalen, we wouldn't do this if it was almost anyone else, but it's that dude. So we're going to get that dude. And for the Bengals, bringing in a Super Bowl winning quarterback, Hurts for Burrow, obviously with some draft picks then exchanged, but Hurts for Burrow, and then Jalen, you already have a good run game in Chase Brown, some very good receivers to throw those slants you really like to. It doesn't, in terms of the weapons he has, it doesn't downgrade all that much. Obviously, the offensive line problems are there. And I don't know if aside from what Saquon saw, I don't know if there is a bigger shift in quality of offensive line than going from the Bengals to the Eagles. But could Cincinnati talk themselves into that? And for Philadelphia, again, it's like, look, there's a championship level player that's available after a season that has been really disappointing, specifically on the offensive side. I know we won a Super Bowl with that guy, but we won it with him. We could win one because of Joe Burrow. And again, he's Joe Burrow. There's just that opportunity. So the most likely outcome is he probably doesn't get traded. But these are, if the Bengals are looking, I think these are the teams that have either the draft capital or the motivation to go out and get this deal done. And don't lie to me, that Eagles one got the brain ticking a little bit, didn't it? Because I, just going through the teams, I was like, okay, Raiders, yeah, Raiders win on everything always. The Jets, similar, New York, all that. Miami, they're going to need to make a switch. I put this together before the Ewers news too. And then I got to the Eagles and I was like, oh shit, oh damn, okay. Whew. So yes, obviously, contracts in the NFL are weird, and there's this, that, and the other thing that complicate a lot of these. So, well, actually, that's not welcome. I understand. But I just think that there are, if this is going to happen, and given his comments after last week, I think there's a chance it could. I think these are the teams that have the best chance to pull off something like this. Let me know. What about your team? If I didn't list you, and odds are I didn't, if I didn't list your team here, let me know why you think your team would make a move for a Joe Burrow. Or if your team is on here and you think I'm insane, also let me know. And Bengals fans, I'm just sorry. And that's coming from a Raider fan. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. If you can't get enough of this show, well, bring it with you. Just search Couch Potato Diary in Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. When we're rolling, it is multiple times a week, sometimes multiple times a day. So make sure you go find us and just nice and easy. Downloads right on your phone and we can hang out together listening-wise that way. Again, trying to grow all those. So if you already are a subscriber or follower, thank you. Leave a review while you're there. It helps grow the show immensely. So again, thank you guys so much for hanging out today.